Dudes and dudettes, welcome back to the Ice Age. My name is Iceman, and I'm bringing you another Halo 5 gameplay video. What we're going to be talking about today is the recent Warzone Firefight beta, and I wanted to give my thoughts and some feedback on this game mode, so hopefully we can see some changes for when the full version of this game mode releases sometime later this year. So what you guys are seeing on your screen is actually the very first round of Firefight that I played during the beta. I do very well in this game. I think I tie with some other players for the maximum number of points that you can get, which was 30,000. We'll talk about that later in the video as well. So I just wanted to at the beginning of this video, tell you guys my short thoughts and impressions on this game mode. And that is basically that it is definitely a fun game mode. It's fun for a few rounds, a few games, but during the beta it was not interesting enough and did not have enough variety to be fun for a while. You know, it was fun because it was new, but after a few rounds of it, especially rounds with a team of people who were talking and doing well, it got to be rather boring after just a few matches, which was unfortunate. And so hopefully some of the feedback that I talk about and that other people have put in the forum threads can help remedy that issue. So one other thing that I really wanted to note about this game type is that the focus is definitely on the Warzone word in the title, not the Firefight word. A lot of people were hoping that this mode would be a way to bring back the old memories, the old Firefight games from ODST and Reach and some previous games, and in my opinion that is not the case. This is definitely a PvE Warzone game mode, and that's about the only similarity that it has to the original Firefight, which is unfortunate in my opinion. I was really hoping for some of the old gameplay mechanics to still be here, and I thought those would have greatly improved the experience, and I'll definitely cover some of those later in some of my more specific feedback points. So, I also wanted to talk a little bit about some of the issues that I and the community brought up while playing this game mode. From what I understand, and from my experience as well, because this was a beta, I'm giving it a little bit of leeway, but there was not much variety in the dynamic objectives that they had during this game. I was expecting a little bit of a bigger pool, I suppose, for what you could have rolled out as your objective for each round, when really it kind of came down to just being a variety of kill X number of a particular type of enemy within 5 minutes. You know, there were the occasional different objectives, like the notorious defend the garage one, but other than that, I found myself really just counting how many of a certain enemy I was killing, and that was basically every round for me. Otherwise, some other issues that people had regarded the difficulty of the game type. There were kind of two different camps. One camp of people said that it was not hard enough, that it was a rather easy game type to complete all the way through 5 rounds. I tend to fall more into this camp. I think that with a group of people, and even with groups of randoms, it can definitely be done, you know, all the way through 5 rounds, no problem. You know, you might die here and there every once in a while to some of the bigger bosses, but with a group of people, you can definitely make your way through it without too much trouble. Now, the other camp of people were the ones saying that it actually is too difficult to do without using rec cards. And I can see this point as well. I don't think it is even mathematically possible to kill 3 wardens with loadout weapons in 5 minutes. I'm just not sure that that's even possible to do. So you almost are required to call in something, whether it's a vehicle or a better weapon, to help take down those big bosses. You know, I'm not sure if that's exactly the case, but in my opinion, that feels like the way that the game was set up. So you'll see in this video, you know, I call in wrecks, I call in vehicles later in the game. My teammates do that as well, and we don't really have too much trouble, you know, taking out the bosses, whether they're regular bosses or mythic bosses or whatever. So I'm not sure if this was a gameplay design choice on the part of 343, but I do kind of understand the people who thought that it was too difficult to do without Rex. And I think that goes back to the fact that they were focusing on the Warzone part of it. And Warzone is definitely focused around the Rex and the ability to use these upgraded weapons. So one other thing that I really wanted to cover before I talk about my feedback was the score cap, or the apparent score cap in this game. You'll notice at the end of this round, a few of us tie for 30,000 points each. And I've never seen another person get a higher score than that. I myself have gotten that score through a few of the rounds. Didn't matter what score each of us had before the game ended. If we had a part in handling the Wardens or the Mythic Hunters, it seemed like it just limited us to 30,000 points. So hopefully that's not the case when the full version of this game type releases later. But I noticed that and I was kind of confused by it because it did not seem to order the players in the after action report based on what points they got during the game. So just a little confusion there, not really sure why that was the decision, but hopefully that's changed and it will accurately reflect how many points you earned when the final game type releases. So now I wanted to move into talking about some actual feedback and some thoughts that I have on what could be changed or improved. So like I was talking about earlier, most of the challenges in the beta were some variety of kill X number of a certain type of enemy, whether or not it's a boss or just 50 jackals or grunts or something like that. It got kind of repetitive, and that kind of contributed to me not playing as many rounds of this as I thought I was going to. So one way that I think you could improve that type of objective would be to give bonus points for taking out the preferred type of enemy in a certain manner. And what I mean by that is you could have, headshots or melee or with a vehicle or without a vehicle, all as sort of bonus point modifiers, I guess you could say, for these enemies. I don't want to make it required, like kill knights without using vehicles or something like that. But if you kill knights without using vehicles, maybe you get 1.5 times points, 1.25 times points, something like that. It would add a little spice that would help the people who like using Rex. They could call in something more powerful just to take out the enemy, but if the bonus is to not use any Rex, then the people who don't want to waste their cards can still help and, contribute to take down the bosses. I personally would really enjoy if that was a feature, just because it would add a little more challenge, and since I've generally fall in the camp that it's a little too easy at the moment, this would be a welcome change for me. Some other objective ideas that I have would be kind of trying to transplant some of the arena game modes into Warzone. And what I mean by that is you can kind of apply the assault or capture the flag mentality and game type objectives to something that could be done within Warzone. So for example, there might be an objective to take a bomb from the garage and plant it in one of the home bases that has been taken over by one of the either Prometheans or the Covenant and defend it while it explodes. Or you could have to make your way into an enemy-controlled area or armory and capture some sort of relic or artifact or power supply or something along those lines. And I think those would both add very much to what they currently have in the objective rotation, and since people are already familiar with those types of game types from Arena, I don't think it would be that much of a switch for them to bring that into Warzone Firefight as well. One other one that I think would be interesting was kind of copying a little bit from like the race game type, and you could set it up to where you have to make it from one end of the map to the other. Now that would work better on maps like March on Stormbreak, which are long and more linear rather than arc or something like that, but it's just an idea to have more of like a game type that's focused on your motion around the map rather than, a zone control, which seems to be most of the other objectives. One other idea I have, which is already, a precedent within Halo, is to have modifiers on each round. And that would be in the form of skulls. I think having a round skull or a match length skull would actually be very interesting. You could maybe roll like the tilt skull, and then every enemy's weaknesses and strengths are amplified, and that would make the dynamic objectives even more interesting. It could make them more difficult. I think that would be a great thing to add in, and the campaign already has these skulls set up, so it wouldn't be that much of a difference, in my opinion, to have them apply to the AI within Firefight as well. And the last thing that I wanted to bring in and talk about is a feature that I remember from the original versions of Firefight, and I was kind of surprised that they left this out, and that is the life pool, where as a team you guys have a certain number of lives that you're allowed to use, and if you run out of lives, then the game is over. In this case, there's more people. There's 8 people in Firefight now as opposed to 4 from the previous games, but if you had a life pool of, say, 12 lives per round maximum, it would definitely add more challenge to the game, because some of the enemies are definitely very tough, and people are definitely going to die in some rounds of Firefight, and I think if there was a way to have this life pool and have somebody be the hero and, complete the objective by themselves at the end of the game, I think that would be awesome and really add something to this game type that it's missing right now. So hopefully you guys, have some thoughts on this as well, or whether or not you agree with me or disagree with me, please let me know down in the comments. This is a game type I've been waiting to see for a while, and while it is fun in its current form, I think they can do a lot better and make this something for everybody to enjoy for a long time. So definitely let me know what you guys think, whether or not you guys have any extra feedback, what you think about my ideas. But yeah, guys, thanks for listening, and until next time, stay frosty.